Somebody who I went to high school with, but I didn't really know was an NYU film student and had started asking around if anyone knew of an editor who could help him edit his senior thesis at NYU. And somehow he got to me. People were like, "Yeah, Sean Albertson's a film editor." I was not, and and what happened was I took the gig, and I asked my dad to help me. And my dad, who was running, he wasn't editing at the time. He was running Tadeo East in Manhattan at the time, and he gave us an editing room there, and he would sit with me and the director and help us edit this thing and talk about the creative choices and how to make something work. And what my dad taught me in that process, he having been a musician and a chef, was the correlation for me between what I loved about cooking and music to storytelling for the screen via editing. And it something just clicked inside of me, and I was like, everything I was searching for creatively, I could get from film editing, from filmmaking, from writing, from, just storytelling for the screen.
You're not the first person to, like, we've had a lot of students who have a background in music.
Mm-hmm.
They have a natural sense of rhythm.
Yep.
That for pacing, for dialogue, not just for it informs them and their choices. So I get that, but like, how did music and food connect into this kind of storytelling for you?
Well, so the best way for me to describe how food connects to it is, I was working with a director early in my career, and invited he and his wife over for dinner, and I cooked them dinner, and we had a nice, lovely time, and we were sitting eating, and he said, I'm sure I'm paraphrasing because it was a long time ago, he said something to me like, watching you cook is very much like sitting behind you and watching you edit my movie. You try a little of it. Like my dad was, and so I became I'm not a recipe kind of cook. I'm like hey, try this kind of cook. And
you're an iron chef.
I'm an iron chef, and sometimes I really fuck it up, and my family is not happy about what I cook. But that's the thing. It's like, oh, this much garlic powder. Taste it. That's not quite working. Let's, add some more of this. Take some more of this, and that's what this director sort of pointed out to me. And it was a great way to kind of boil down why I think editing in particular really connects to cooking for me. And in terms of music, like you said, it's so much about rhythm, right? And so dialogue in particular, I mean, everything that I edit is about rhythm, and you do find this natural rhythm, and I do think that some of it can be learned. And then, I've seen plenty of editors who are pretty successful and do great things, and I'll look at a dialogue scene and say, like, there's just not that natural sort of human dialogue pattern that you want, or to use tempo and rhythm to create a feeling or an emotion or a build, right? And that's for me, that's completely connected to music. It's the same thing when you're writing a song, playing a song. It's all about rhythm and building and connecting, with and it's manipulation. It's what I love about filmmaking. It's emotional manipulation. And it occurs to me as we're talking about it that's why I think musicians tend to. And by the way, I know a lot of editors who were percussionists. Because rhythm is such a big part of it, and I think that again, I think people who come from music into film editing have an advantage for that reason. And then like you say, like otherwise you start learning like, oh, that feels clunky. So over the years playing music and editing a bunch of shit, it's like, oh yeah, I know how that should feel as an audience member. I know how I want that to come across as an audience member. And it's all about rhythm. It's all about when, what the timing is, what particular second and what moment you cut to somebody's eyes, that kind of thing.